Hey everybody, Doug Scott McCarron again. Wow, this storm's just been going on for days. Um, we've had rainy weather here and thunder kabooming and stuff. So if you hear noises in the background or rain on the roof, that's what's up. Weather, that's what's up. Not the only person who has it, I guess. I want to talk about what I've learned about the Ten Commandments over the past couple of years. Specifically, there's two websites I look at. One's called Esoterica, and one's called Religion for Breakfast. Not too sure about the Religion for Breakfast guy. Esoterica is kind of interesting. You'd swear you're looking at a rabbi. He's Jewish. He wears the yarmulke. He's got a beard. But he doesn't seem to actually believe in God. It's more I guess he thinks it's good to have a social construct to live in, and so he lives that way. And yet he knows a lot about the religion. So it's interesting listening to him. He can talk very deeply spiritually and everything, and then make fun of it. It's kind of wild. But something I learned from these two is the Ten Commandments. In Hebrew, the word doesn't mean commandment. It means commitment, or something close to commitment. So it's not like, I command you to do this. It's more, okay, I'm going to be your God. You will be my people. That's the commitment. If you accept this, this is how I would like you to live. If you don't, well, get off my land. Apparently gods in the, back then, they lived in specific spots. So, I don't know that there was the thought of a universal God back then. There seems to be local city gods. Some people are starting to look at, well, how does this all fit together? But it was still, yeah. I mean, you think about it, you live in a neighborhood. Some tough guys, the tough guys get together and beat each other up, and whoever wins, they run the neighborhood. That's, in England, they had several king areas until eventually the Vikings beat up a few of them enough that other of the kings could take over until, I think it was I can't think of his name. The guy finally drove the Vikings out, and he fairly well unified the United Kingdom. Well, England. Scotland was still arguing for a while, still afterwards. But there's still just this idea, like, God lives on my turf. God lives here. And it's always kind of a reflection of yourself and your own opinions. A lot of people worship themselves and their own opinions. There's this whole song about did Jesus sail to England and run around over there? Made up by the English, of course. I'm sure the French have a version of that, and I'm sure the Russians have a version of that. The U.S., we don't have it that Jesus came here because he was long gone before the U.S. got set up, but now we think we're the ones that's being spoken about in the Bible. We're the ones that are being pointed at. I don't know how people make that thing. There's just something about human beings. They just sort of assume that when they talk about God, it's their reflection of their being, and it's all here. Whereas if you get into a universal God, the whole thing is you've got to let go of the me-ism. But, all the religions talk about a universal God, but then they act like their particular branch of it is the true one, and all the rest of you are misled. And we'll argue about it, and sometimes we'll shoot at each other. But as far as the Ten Commandments, it's interesting because I've had some people say it actually says, instead of thou willeth, thou mayeth. And there's something to be said. Of course, that's coming through in English, not Hebrew. It's somebody in English translating often words we aren't really sure what they are, because nobody knows how a lot of the words were spoken back then, because all those people are dead. And then the exact meaning may be gone. And of course, each person may have their interpretation of what that word means. And then you bring it over here into English, and you got to translate it into English, but it's going through the beliefs and assumptions of the person who's translating it. So who knows? But there is instead of, this is where Yahweh is. Or there's even a discussion about who was actually God. Eventually the name Yahweh shows up, but you got the old, there's a Elohim or Elohim, and other points. Baal is actually the god of a lot of Judaism. But eventually you end up with, here's this turf, Israel was destroyed, Judah is left over, so this is where God is, and this is Yahweh, and God lives here. And if you're going to live here, well, you got to follow the God. Now, if you're going to be Jewish and live here, because there were other people around, but if you're going to follow the God, this is the commitment. It's like a husband and wife. I will marry you, and I'll feed you, I'll have sex with you, we'll have kids together, we'll buy a house, we'll make an attempt to love one another. And those are commitments. And that's kind of what the 10 things are. And a lot of them have to do with not possessing things like it says, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife. But it's not clear that means sexually. Because, women were property, just like animals back then. That's what it appears to say in the law, anyway. We were all slaves to something. The United States and Western Europe, a lot of countries, we have this idea that we're individuals and we all have freedom, and I happen to agree with it. But the vast majority of human history is we're born to die, we're slaves to whatever runs this place, and whoever's running around with the big hammer at the moment, they're the one in charge. And our local gods protect us from the other local gods, and if they win, our God died. But in Israel, they actually, they got taken away to Babylon and came back, so apparently God survived getting moved out of his condo, I guess. I don't mean that's sacrilegious, it just struck me as funny. But anyway, it's not you're commanded to do something, it's that if you want to follow God, this is the commitments you make. No one's making you. Well, that's not true. Everybody's trying to make everybody else do it, but theoretically, when you read it, you're not being compelled to. It's just that if you want to follow it, this is what you agree to do. Don't murder your neighbor, be nice, don't commit adultery, don't steal. It's interesting, it doesn't actually say, there's apparently nothing against, you're not supposed to lie like if you're making a business deal, but if like you're gambling or you're getting into stuff like that, you can lie to the other person. And you can mislead in business, but you can't actually lie. So it's interesting reading the different versions of it. I've probably read about 60 different websites on even the 10 Commitments and the 10 Commandments, the difference between Christianity and Judaism. they're actually very different. So I read that, and then you read all these 60 different sites, and each person has a different interpretation of what it means. But I just found the most interesting part was that you're making a commitment to God. It's not that you're being, you shall do this. And if you do that, if you follow your commitment to God, God commits to help you back. Of course, then there's a question of what does help mean? You know, if you think it means, you know, I'm going to get all the wealth and money and property in the world and get all the great chicks, and then you put that up against what does it profit a man to have the world but lose his soul? Pretty broad discussions. You know, well, I guess for atheists it's easier because they don't believe any of it's going on. I don't even know if that's true. I think that it's more they don't believe in a theistic being. Doesn't mean they don't believe there's something big and powerful happening. Anyway, I learned that. I thought it was interesting. I hope you did too. All right, thanks. Till next time. Again, dsmccarron.com. Come check it out. Got some more of my history there. Got my book, music teaching book there. Got my merch there. I'll be putting up my newest movie there pretty soon. And I think I'm going to try and go for a walk because it's not raining right now. Hopefully I don't get flooded. Till next time, Douglas Scott McCarron.